She's an inspiration.
No, he is an inspiration. He's the one that keeps on going, going, going.
Can you introduce your pooch to us?
This is good old Lily. Say, hey, Lily. My name is Dorothy Beauvais. I used to be an art therapist. I worked with kids that had cancer and blood disorders. And I would do Tai Chi. I've done this forever and ever. And there was a new class. So I was there. In fact, I talked to my mom. Everything was okay. And so then I walked all the way down. You know, I was a walker. I did lots of stuff. And we were doing Tai Chi, and I was mimicking another person. And then supposedly I just collapsed. And for me, I just got back up and there was no problem. And they said, no, something's wrong, whatever, I don't know. And I was more embarrassed that it happened. And they put me against the wall. And because we were in that hospital, they got one of the nurses, and there was a wheelchair, and they put me in. And then they went down to the ER, and they wanted to know if I was pregnant and this and that. And supposedly I talked to the doctor, the neurosurgeon, and then they weren't going to give me do the surgery at that time because it was too late for them. They just thought it wouldn't be a good idea, supposedly. And they watched me 1-to-1, and they said, we'll do it next morning. They told me the side effects or whatever, problems that could happen. And so I had it the next morning. And I remember, because I used to go there and I used to work with the kids and go to the ER and do the surgery. I used to bring them down, calm them down. And here I am putting a sheet over me because I was more embarrassed. So I'm the one that's supposed to help people, not to.
Wow.
And supposedly everything was fine after the surgery that day. And then the next day, that was September 12th, they said I was delirious. And I ripped your I ripped trach out my trach. I did everything.
She really went off.
Yeah. I don't know when or what happened. And I was just like, and I thought sort of like this was like a dream. And supposedly 2 weeks later, I had a vasospasm stroke. And there was still blood in the area. And that's why I had another stroke. And then I had the surgery over here, and then they put on a shunt over here. So I had another hair over here. I was never part of anything. It just happened. So I was in the ICU, whether which was a coma or when it was out.
How long were you actually in a coma?
I think from September 12th to November, right after Halloween. That's when they put me into the
and they decided to, did they induce your coma too?
Yeah, it was an induced coma.
Yeah,
because I was
there was a lot that happened in those 2 months. Oh my goodness. So after the surgery, there was like a 2-week period, and then you had a stroke, and then they induced the coma.
Right.
Or 2 months you were out.
Right. It actually was my name, supposedly, and that's when I had the so what I was told, that's when I had the vasospasm stroke.
Wow.
Wow. I said,
So
boy, I had to walk in the park compared to what Dorothy went through. I had to walk in the park, and I thought I had a bad. It, it was touch and go in the beginning.
Now, it sounds like it was touch and go in the beginning, like those first 2 months,
right.
tough.
So then I went to Kessler inpatient. Even when they told me what happened, I said, "Does my mom and dad know about it?" I had no clue, and I still and that, again, this is now November, and I still don't understand what's happening.
What an incredible and confusing time to be in some of the facilities that you knew from your work life, but like now you're the patient and
That
like you lost 2 months being in the coma.
and
So
then
what's happening? So at that time, as much as you can remember or have been told, what was your language and communication like those early days, like November, December, early after your
cry, argue like I was a little baby. I was very good finding. I was supposed to have compression socks in order for me to walk, and it's hard. I had to do it all the way up to my thighs, and they didn't want to do it, meaning the aide. And I was like, "No, you got to put it on," and she didn't want to. And I just started cursing, and she's sitting there like, "Oh, you know that real well," and I'd be like,
so your communication was super limited to curse words or just being really frustrated,
and
crying. Yeah.
and then to come in and just say finally what the PT was. I mean, speech, I didn't know what she was doing. We're saying ABCs and stuff like that, which I didn't even know. And I didn't have what was something different than what I was acting was completely different. And it was just like a movie that I was watching.
I'm like, wow. For instance, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Dorothy. That's what I'm trying to say.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I it took a long time for me to talk like this because in the beginning I wasn't talking to anybody.
He didn't talk at all.
Oh
So,
boy.
Kevin, I would love to hear. Tell us about, introduce yourself and a little bit
Okay.
about you before your stroke and then what happened with your stroke.
Okay. I My name is Kevin Slade. I was 38 when I had my stroke. I was a class A person. I was always on the go. I loved working. I mean, I loved working. I was an owner operator. I owned my own truck, and as a matter of fact, that truck stayed in my driveway for practically 2 years because I was determined to get back in there and be able to shift the gears. And because I had a shifter, I didn't have an automatic. So, needless to say, that never happened. So, okay, so what happened was it was a Saturday morning. I'm sorry, a Sunday morning, and in Industrial Park on a Sunday at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's not a lot of people around, right? So I got to my truck, my Mac. I could see that, and I'm just about to get out of the car, and I'm in my Pathfinder, and all of a sudden I can't move, cannot move. I'm like, now I'm getting really confused and scared. I was scared. I was like, I was paralyzed on my right side, and I couldn't. Yeah, I'm really, really confused, very scared for like an hour. I sat in my car for an hour. Then it had passed through. I was 38 when I had it. I didn't know anything about a stroke,
Right.
you know? So it had passed through. So I felt pretty like pretty normal. I was still rattled, but would you? I'm a stubborn Irishman. I I went and I completed my job what I had to do that day. I got I got back home, and make a long story short, I had a ischemic stroke. So that was my warning. 5 days later, I went down for good.
So you had a like a 1 hour event that was terrifying.
It
You
was
could
for
not
me.
move, but as you said, passed through. Like you kind of after that period, you felt better. You were rattled. It was scary, but you were like, "Oh, I can do things." And then you did your day of work. You got in your truck and did your day. And then 5 days later, you were out. Like that you had it, there was no like letting it pass through. The stroke was full. And
Yep.
oh, wow. Okay. So you went to the hospital, I assume right then. Were you around people when it
What
happened?
you want to hear something ironic? I was married at the time, and she had MS, and she had an appointment with where we went, and she was waiting to get called, and I was talking to her, and all of a sudden I was like, not, I couldn't talk, couldn't make my words exactly. She said that there's some, so she had her doctor. I went to the hospital, and I was I we were there for at least 4 hours, and I said, we'll come back tomorrow, or whatever. I was tired, and they said, no, we're gonna enlist you. We're gonna what's the word?
Admit, admission,
Admit you into the hospital. So you're not going anywhere. You're going up to the third floor.
You're not going home. You're staying here. We're keeping you.
And then I woke up the next day, and then then I wasn't going anywhere for like months. I will tell you this, that the first day I was in the hospital, my parents come in, and my father, who's my best friend, my buddy, he says he looks at my mom, and he says, I can't understand a word he's saying. So I said, what? So that was the beginning of my story, which was frustration, and very frustration. And I had PT, OT, speech therapy. By the end of the day, I like I say, I was a first class person, first type A person. I went from a type A to a negative type person. I couldn't do anything. Couldn't do that. I was exhausted. exhausted by the end of the day. The third speech therapy, which my last uh, thing of the day, I was like getting through that. That's my story.
Wow.
But my story is nothing compared to Dorothy's.
Very different, but the equal part, like I think everyone who's had a stroke experience has their clearly their own story,
Right.
but there's different components of like scariness, unknown, frustration, or those initial moments of like, wait, what? Like, uh, Kevin, you were saying about your parents coming in and your dad saying, I don't understand what he's saying. And you were like, wait, what? So you could understand, but you could not communicate.
Exactly.
So it sounds like that was the first time that you knew, like, wait a minute. What are you can't understand me? What's
Yeah.
happening? Wow. Wow.
Exactly.
And also the whole thing about, I don't know that we talk enough about exhaustion after a stroke. It's a real thing. They call it post-stroke fatigue. Your brain there's many reasons for being exhausted after a stroke, but also that doing all of that therapy when your brain is working on healing and reconnecting and it's had an injury, it's trying to heal, it's taking away that energy for doing your life. And
I have this when I was in rehabilitation, and I have this specific thing that says never, never, never give up. So I got one for Kevin to have it also, and he has it until we moved and we live with each other. But she specifically has it over there too. You got to just keep on going. It's an old thing, but never, never, never give
can
up.
you, I would love to know how the two of you met.
Oh, okay. That's very, very good. Thank God. Thank God. We I saw this in a in a aphasia book, and I wrote into it and started. That's how we got connected. Okay, so I was. This is 2006. Okay.
He was at Thanksgiving, and his nephew said, "Oh, why don't we send on Friends Health Connection?" And because you sent me a letter.
A letter. I wrote a letter.
Yeah.
And then
that was in November.
When I was at Cats and Paws, I asked my nephew Mark to see if anything, and he goes, "You have mail." I said, "What?"
And that was this. We didn't meet each other face to face. It was in March. It was right after my birthday. And you sent a letter that he wrote it down and he sent it in the mail. And then I got it.
Yeah. Listen, we were going to meet at the train station. We had the two train stations. I was thinking of Sterling, and Dorothy was thinking in Summit. And if I know Dorothy, if I didn't show up that day, we would not be having this conversation because she would have been pissed off. And thank God that I
decided to change to that.
Yeah, because we were in the wrong train stations. And Dorothy, I know Dorothy, she would have been.
She would have been done. Like
she would have went somewhere else.
So you had like online connection through the Friends Health Connection. So now you've been together for 18 years.
Right.
And we don't get to ask questions like this because I haven't met a couple that both have aphasia. Do you see each other change over that 18 years? Have you seen like, oh, she's saying more than she used to be able to say, or he's communicating better than before? Have you seen that?
Well, I grew up a whole lot since I met Dorothy.
No,
I have
he
really.
he,
She uh took me down. I took me down a dark hole I was in, and uh, got me out of the hole. I'm third.
he was really, yeah.
I was bad. What's that?
Yeah. And it was good for me. It got me to drive and do things that I needed because I never was doing it. I was able to drive, but I was so scared and nervous. But then I'm like, oh, and I did it and I came here. I mean, we were friends for a long time before he gave me the ring. But
wow. So the two of you together, you have both grown in like your life as it is now, taking chances or having opportunities to like get out of your head about your own challenges to help the other.
Exactly. Dorothy said this a long time ago, and she's exactly 100% correct. We help each other. And that's exactly
we grow along.
Hey, she has her strengths and I have my strengths, and we both make it work.
That's tremendous. That is just tremendous. And had it not been for both of you put yourselves out there, you both were doing groups, you both were like looking for opportunities to connect with others. And thank goodness you put yourself out there. And from all of these little things, you were able to meet. Yeah. What inspires you or motivates you, especially during a tough day?
You know who does? Lily.
She's the audience watching us.
It's amazing that Lily has changed our lives.
I like that we put ourselves in situations that we're not used to, and we learn while we're doing it. Remember, we used to always go on trips and stuff, and we be focused on it, and then just to keep on going. I mean, he's even started doing we're brain injury associate. No, love your brain. He got into doing yoga with me, and what do you call it?
Yeah. I never would have thought that I would enjoy yoga. I loved it.
Oh, that's great.
And it's also good to ideas. He might not agree with what I'm doing, and or he does agree, but we have a conversation to.
We agree to disagree.
Share. Yes.
So you have good communication and respect for each other. That you need to do that. I don't need to do that. And that's okay. That's okay. Or like, hey, I'm going to try something new, something I didn't know I would like. So that's worked out.
I'd have to say that Dorothy has that method. I'm a little behind the eight ball, but I've come a long way because Dorothy, she's an inspiration.
No, he is an inspiration. He's the one that keeps on going.
What do you think would be helpful for people with aphasia who are new to aphasia? What advice would you want to give to them?
Okay.
No, you can go.
No,
really,
ladies first.
Yeah,
Ladies first.
He just have to be patient and confidence. Just you can help me here.
I agree. Totally agree with you. Patience. Yeah. You're not very good with patience and I don't have any patience. In the beginning, yeah, you're right. It's a long, long road, and yeah, all I can say is to hang in there, and it'll get better. It'll get better. I promise you. Because
Patience. So patience, hang in there over time. Okay. Yeah.
And
exactly.
share,
Yeah.
because he listens to him. I talk to him. We share conversations. That's what really helps and
Yeah.
grows.
Right.
And that we,
No.
yeah.
Well, thank you both again. This has been so fun. Thanks for sharing
You.
all of your experiences and wisdom, and
Thank
super
you
fun to
for listening.
chat.
Thank you,
All right.
doctor. Thank you.